The Empire's iron rule. The Krillian Empire stretched across 17 star systems, built on conquest and absolute obedience. For 300 years, their warrior culture had dominated this sector of space. Their laws were simple: strength meant survival, weakness meant death. No exceptions, no mercy, no second chances. Commander Vexthor stood on the obsidian platform of his warship, staring at the dying child in the medical chamber below. His son. His only heir. The boy's silver skin had turned gray, his breathing shallow and broken. The finest Krillian physicians had already declared him terminal. Genetic collapse, they said with cold efficiency. The bloodline weakens. Nature's way of removing imperfection from our people. Vexthor had executed men for smaller failures. But this? This was his son. 7 years old, brilliant, brave, everything a Krillian warrior should be. And he was dying because of some random genetic defect that medicine couldn't fix. The commander's clawed hand gripped the railing until it bent. Around him, his officers stood silent. They knew better than to speak. They knew their commander faced an impossible choice: accept his son's death with honor, or break the Empire's most sacred law. No outside species could enter Krillian medical facilities. Ever. Their biology was classified military intelligence. Sharing it meant execution for treason. But Vexthor had heard rumors. Whispers from the outer colonies about a human medic who worked miracles. Who healed diseases that shouldn't be curable. Who saw connections other species missed. Her name was Dr. Sarah Chen. The desperate gamble. Sarah was elbow-deep in a fuel converter repair when the message came through. She wiped grease off her hands, squinting at the holographic display floating above her wrist communicator. The symbol that appeared made her freeze. The Krillian Imperial Seal. This has to be a joke, she muttered. But the authentication codes were real. And the message was simple: come alone. Bring your medical kit. Coordinates attached. Refuse and your colony dies. Sarah had been a frontier doctor for 8 years. She'd learned that threats from the Krillian Empire weren't exaggerations. They meant every word. She packed her supplies with shaking hands. Her medical scanner, her portable lab, her emergency surgical tools. All human technology, probably primitive compared to what the Krillians had. But it was all she owned. The coordinates led to a Krillian destroyer in orbit above the neutral moon of Talos 9. Sarah's shuttle felt like a toy approaching a predator. The ship was massive, dark, covered in weapons that could vaporize her colony without effort. The docking bay was empty except for one figure. Commander Vexthor himself. 9 feet tall, armored in black metal, 4 arms crossed over his chest. His face was angular, alien, with eyes that glowed like burning coals. You are the human medic, he said. Not a question. Dr. Sarah Chen. She tried to keep her voice steady. You threatened my entire colony to get me here. This better be important. For a long moment, the commander just stared at her. Then he did something she never expected. He knelt, bringing himself closer to her height. My son is dying. Our medicine cannot save him. I am told you can do what our physicians cannot. Sarah blinked. You want me to treat a Krillian? That's illegal under your own laws. Yes. If anyone finds out, you'll be executed. Yes. Then why risk it? Vexthor's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those burning eyes. Something that looked almost human. Because he is my son. And I have already lost too much. The impossible patient. The medical chamber was unlike anything Sarah had seen. Crystalline walls pulsed with energy. Monitoring systems displayed data in symbols she couldn't read. And in the center, on a platform that hummed with technology, lay a small Krillian child. He was beautiful in a way Sarah hadn't expected. His silver skin caught the light like water. His 4 arms were folded across his chest. His breathing was so shallow she almost couldn't see it. His name is Kale-9, Dexthor said quietly. He collapsed during combat training 3 days ago. Our physicians say his genetic structure is failing. That his body is rejecting itself. Sarah approached slowly, scanning the boy with her medical equipment. The readings made her frown. This isn't genetic collapse, she said after a moment. This is an autoimmune cascade. Explain. His immune system is attacking his own cells. It thinks his body is the enemy. She looked up at the commander. Has he been exposed to anything unusual recently? New environments, new foods, new technology? Dexthor thought carefully. He accompanied me to the conquered colony of Breezix 4. He wanted to see what his father had built. What was on that colony? Mineral processing facilities. Standard extraction operations. Sarah's scanner beeped. She studied the results, her eyes widening. There's trace amounts of Helenium-9 in his bloodstream. That's a radioactive isotope. Humans would get sick from it too, but our immune systems respond differently. For Krillians, with your enhanced cellular regeneration, it's triggering an overreaction. Your son isn't dying from weakness. He's dying from being too strong. The commander stared at her. Can you fix it? Maybe. But I'll need to suppress his immune system temporarily while his body filters out the poison. It's going to be dangerous. If I get the dosage wrong, he could die faster. And I've never treated a Krillian before. I'm working blind here. Do it anyway. Commander. Do it anyway, Dexthor repeated, his voice like stone. Because if you do nothing, he dies for certain. At least this way, he has a chance. Sarah looked at the dying child, then at his father, then at her medical supplies that probably weren't designed for alien biology. Okay, she said finally. But you need to understand something. I'm not a miracle worker. I'm just a human who's good at solving puzzles. And your son is the most complicated puzzle I've ever seen. The long night. For 16 hours, Sarah worked without stopping. She modified her medicines, diluting them to concentrations that might work on Krillian biology. She monitored Kale-9's vital signs with equipment that wasn't designed to read them. She made educated guesses that could either save his life or kill him faster. Dexthor never left. He stood like a statue beside the medical chamber, watching every move she made. Other Krillian officers came and went, bringing supplies she requested, hovering nervously. None of them had ever seen a human work before. None of them trusted her. But the commander had given an order. And Krillian warriors followed orders. Around hour 12, Kale-9's breathing stopped. Sarah's heart dropped into her stomach. She grabbed her scanner, checking for any signs of life. The readings were chaotic, bouncing between extremes. He's in cardiac arrest, she said. I need to restart his heart. We don't have. Then I'm improvising. She pulled out her emergency defibrillator, designed for humans, calibrated for human biology. She had no idea if it would work on a Krillian. She pressed the pads against Kale-9's chest and prayed. Clear. The shock hit. Kale-9's small body convulsed. Nothing. Again. Another shock. Still nothing. Sarah looked at Dexthor. The mighty commander's face was completely blank, but his hands were shaking. One more time, Sarah whispered. Come on, kid. Don't quit on me. She hit the button. The third shock pulsed through Kale-9's body. And his eyes opened. He gasped, sucking in air like he'd been underwater for hours. His silver skin began to brighten, color returning slowly but steadily. The monitors started showing stable readings. Sarah almost collapsed in relief. Dexthor grabbed her shoulder, gently, carefully, like he was afraid she might break. You saved him. We're not done yet, Sarah said, though she was smiling despite her exhaustion. He needs another 8 hours of treatment minimum. But yeah. He's going to live. For the first time since she'd arrived, the commander's expression changed. He didn't smile, Krillian's didn't smile, but something softened in those burning eyes. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Why what? Why save him? Your people and mine are enemies. We have conquered your colonies, enslaved your kind. You could have let him die. Weakened the empire." Sarah looked at the small child breathing peacefully on the medical platform. Then she looked at his father. "Because he's a kid," she said simply. "And kids don't deserve to die for their parents' wars. That's true everywhere, for every species. Even yours." Vexthor stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something that would change the course of both their civilizations. He knelt again, but this time he placed his clawed hand over his heart, the Krillian gesture of deepest respect, given only to warriors who had proven themselves beyond doubt. "You have my oath, Dr. Sarah Chen. Whatever you need, wherever you go, the Krillian Empire will answer your call. This I swear on my son's life." Sarah blinked in surprise. That's not necessary. I was just doing my job. You did far more than that." And neither of them realized yet that this moment, this quiet promise made in a secret medical chamber, would reshape an empire that had never bowed to anyone. When warriors learn to heal, the news spreads like wildfire. Sarah thought it would end there. Save the kid, go home, never speak of it again. But she'd underestimated one crucial thing: Krillian warriors don't keep secrets well. Honor meant more than classified protocols. Within 3 days, every ship in Vexthor's fleet knew a human medic had saved the commander's son. Within a week, the story reached the Imperial homeworld. Within 2 weeks, the Krillian High Council demanded Vexthor's immediate execution for treason. He refused to come. Instead, he sent a message that shook the empire to its core: "I will not apologize for saving my son. And any warrior who would condemn me for it has forgotten what honor truly means. We claim to be the strongest species in the galaxy, yet we let our children die rather than accept help from those we consider beneath us. That is not strength. That is cowardice." The message went viral across 17 star systems. Suddenly, Krillian warriors were asking questions they'd never been allowed to ask before. Why were they dying from treatable diseases? Why was genetic collapse accepted as natural when other species had solutions? Why did strength have to mean suffering alone? And at the center of it all was Dr. Sarah Chen, who just wanted to go back to her quiet colony and repair fuel converters in peace. The unexpected visitors. They started arriving on Talos 9 within days. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Krillian warriors, traveling in secret, bringing their sick, their injured, their dying children. All of them desperate. All of them willing to break centuries of tradition for one chance at hope. Sarah's tiny medical clinic was completely overwhelmed. "I can't treat you all," she protested, staring at the line of massive armored warriors stretching down the street. "I'm one person with limited supplies. I don't even have proper facilities for your biology." A female Krillian warrior stepped forward, carrying a small child wrapped in thermal blankets. "My daughter has the wasting sickness. Krillian medicine says she has 2 weeks. Will you try?" Sarah looked at the child's gray skin, her labored breathing, her parents' desperate eyes. And she thought about Kale 9, now healthy and running around his father's ship like any normal 7-year-old. "Okay," she said finally. "But I need help. Real help. I need equipment, supplies, and someone who actually understands Krillian biology. I volunteer." Everyone turned. Standing at the back of the crowd was a Krillian physician, one of the Empire's top medical officers, wearing full academic honors on his armor. He stepped forward with his head held high. "My name is Dr. Thexval. I was told to declare you a fraud, to discredit your methods, to prove human medicine is inferior." He paused. "But I read the medical files from Commander Vexthor's ship. What you did was brilliant. And I am tired of watching children die because we are too proud to learn from others." Sarah blinked. You're risking everything to help me? You risked everything to help us first. That is leadership. That is honor. And just like that, Sarah Chen's small frontier clinic became something unprecedented, the first joint human-Krillian medical facility in history. Teaching warriors to heal. The learning curve was steep on both sides. Krillian physicians were skilled but rigid, following protocols that hadn't changed in centuries. Sarah was creative but reckless, improvising solutions that terrified her new colleagues. You cannot simply modify the dosage based on observation. Dr. Thexval protested after watching Sarah adjust a child's medication mid-treatment. There are proper testing procedures, clinical trials, approval processes. And by the time we finish all that, this kid dies, Sarah countered. Look at his cellular response. The standard dose isn't strong enough. I'm increasing it by 15%. That could kill him. So we're doing nothing. Watch the monitors. If I'm wrong, we'll know in 30 seconds and reverse it. They watched. The child's breathing stabilized. His color improved. The crisis passed. Dr. Thexval stared at the monitors for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "Teach me how you knew that would work." I didn't know. I guessed based on pattern recognition and experience. That is not medicine. That is instinct. Sarah smiled. Sometimes the best medicine is both. Your people have the precision. Mine have the adaptability. Together, we might actually be good at this. Over the following weeks, they developed protocols neither species had imagined before. Combining Krillian biological knowledge with human creative problem-solving. Mixing advanced alien technology with practical frontier improvisation. Teaching each other not just techniques, but entirely different ways of thinking about healing. And the children kept getting better. The Empire's dilemma. The Krillian High Council watched all this with growing horror. Hundreds of warriors were now ignoring imperial law, seeking treatment from an alien species they were supposed to dominate. Worse, it was working. Diseases that had killed Krillians for generations were being cured by human medicine. They couldn't execute everyone involved, that would be half their military. They couldn't shut down the clinic, that would mean condemning their own children. They couldn't admit they were wrong, that would undermine 3 centuries of cultural superiority. So they did the only thing their pride would allow. They sent an assassin. The attack. Sarah was reviewing medical files when the alarm started. She looked up to see Krillian warriors rushing to defensive positions, weapons drawn, scanning the perimeter. What's happening? Dr. Thexval appeared beside her, his expression grim. Imperial assassin. Highly trained. Sent to eliminate you before this movement spreads further. They're going to kill me for healing people? They're going to try. We will not allow it. This is crazy. You can't fight your own empire for me. Watch us. The assassin struck at midnight. She was everything Krillian warriors were supposed to be, fast, deadly, efficient, utterly without mercy. She cut through the first line of defenders like they weren't there. But she hadn't expected what happened next. Kale9 stepped into her path. The small child, barely healed, stood in the corridor with his arms spread wide. Behind him, dozens of other children, all of them patients Sarah had saved, formed a living wall. You cannot kill her, Kale9 said clearly. She saved us. All of us. The assassin hesitated. Krillian warriors did not harm children. Ever. It was the one line their culture never crossed. Move aside, the assassin ordered. This human has violated imperial law. No, said the child with the wasting sickness, now healthy and strong. She followed a higher law. The one that says children deserve to live. The council has issued orders. Then the council is wrong, said another child. Dr. Chen taught us that sometimes the bravest thing is admitting when you're wrong. Maybe the adults should learn that too. The assassin stood frozen, her weapon raised, facing a corridor full of children she was honor-bound not to harm. Children who were alive only because the person she was sent to kill had saved them. Behind the children, Krillian warriors watched in silence. Waiting. Ready to fight their own empire if necessary. And Commander Vexthor's voice boomed through the facility's speakers. Stand down, assassin. That is an order. You have no authority to. I have the authority of every parent in this empire who wants their children to live. You are outnumbered, outmatched, and on the wrong side of history. Stand down. The assassin looked at the children. At the warriors. At the human medic standing calmly behind her patients, not running, not begging, just waiting to see what choice the assassin would make. Slowly, the assassin lowered her weapon. The council will hear of this, she said quietly. Good, Vexthor replied. It's time they heard the truth. The council's decision. 1 week later, the Krillian High Council convened an emergency session. For the first time in 3 centuries, they allowed outside observers. Sarah Chen was brought before them, flanked by Commander Vexthor and Dr. Thexval. The head counselor, ancient and scarred from countless battles, looked down at the small human with undisguised contempt. You have caused chaos across our empire. Undermined our laws. Turned our warriors against their own traditions. What do you have to say for yourself? Sarah took a breath. Then she said the most dangerous thing she'd ever said. I say your traditions are killing your children. And if that's strength, then strength is worthless. The chamber erupted. Half the council demanded her immediate execution. The other half sat in stunned silence. But before anyone could act, something unprecedented happened. The chamber doors opened, and children began filing in. Hundreds of them. All the patients Sarah had treated, all wearing their family armor, all standing tall. They didn't say a word. They just stood there. Living proof. Kale9 walked to the center of the chamber. He looked up at the council, and when he spoke, his voice carried the kind of strength that couldn't be taught. My name is Kale9, son of Vexthor. By our laws, I should be dead. Genetic collapse. Natural selection. The weak removed from our people. He paused. But I'm not weak. I'm alive. And I'm alive because a human cared more about healing than pride. He gestured to the other children. We all are. And we're standing here asking you, what kind of empire builds strength by letting its children die? What kind of honor requires us to suffer alone? What kind of future are you building if you kill the one person who taught us we deserve to live? The chamber was completely silent. Finally, the head counselor spoke. His voice was tired, ancient, and for the first time in anyone's memory, uncertain. You have shown us something we forgot. That strength without compassion is just cruelty wearing armor. He looked at Sarah. Dr. Chen, the Krillian Empire offers you a position we have never offered an outsider before. Chief Medical Advisor. You will have full authority, unlimited resources, and the protection of every warrior in 17 systems. Sarah stared. You want me to stay? We need you to stay. Not just for healing, but for teaching. You have shown our warriors something they had forgotten, that asking for help isn't weakness. That learning from others isn't surrender. That pride is worth nothing if you sacrifice your children to maintain it. The counselor stood, and one by one, every member of the Krillian High Council rose with him. Then they did something that shook the galaxy. They knelt. All of them. The rulers of 17 systems, the conquerors of 100 worlds, the proudest warriors in known space. They knelt before a human medic who just wanted to help. Will you teach us? The head counselor asked quietly. Sarah looked at the children, at the warriors, at the entire empire waiting for her answer. And she thought about everything she'd learned, that healing isn't just medicine, it's connection. That strength isn't refusing help, it's knowing when to ask for it. That the bravest thing any of us can do is admit when we're wrong. Yes, she said. I'll teach you. But only if you teach me too. Because I think we all have something to learn from each other. 5 years later. The joint human-Krillian medical program became a template copied across the galaxy. Former enemies became partners. Rigid traditions became flexible wisdom. And children who would have died now lived to see the stars. Sarah Chen never returned to her quiet colony. She built something better, a medical academy where every species could learn from each other, where pride took a backseat to healing, where the most important question wasn't "Are you strong enough?" but "How can we help?" Kale9 grew up to become a physician himself, working beside Dr. Thex Val to train the next generation. He never forgot the human who saved him when his own people had given up. And Commander Vex Thor, the warrior who had conquered 17 systems, discovered that his greatest battle wasn't against enemies, it was against the pride that had nearly cost him everything. In the Academy's main hall, they placed a monument. Not to military victories, but to a simple truth carved in 12 languages. In a universe built on strength, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is ask for help. And the bravest thing you can do is offer it, even to those who once called you enemy. This is their story. And perhaps, in some small way, it's ours too. Because healing isn't just about medicine. It's about remembering that no matter how different we are, no matter what wars we've fought, we all deserve the chance to live. To laugh. To be saved by someone who saw us not as enemies, but as people worth fighting for. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to HFY Codex Archives for more tales of humanity's courage among the stars. Share this with someone who needs to remember that asking for help is never weakness, it's the first step towards something stronger than any empire.